Right. So this is one of the code editor, especially because whenever if there is any kind of code, what is that we have written, if we want to create any kind of code and all everything. So this code editing and all everything for this tool we can use something relating to GitHub kind of. So this is majorly wherein if you want to create any code editing and all everything, here you can see start writing the code, right? So if you want to have any kind of code and all, we can take it off. Or else if you want to create any kind of repository as separate, so that repository can be created especially here. This is the first one.
Right.
So after that, if you want to create any repository in reference to the project and all, here you can see create repository. So wherein we can create it accordingly. Next one, if you want to create any kind of profile and all other thing, here we can create the profile. So these are the 3-4 major options which normally we have. Now, for example, if you want to have any kind of code space as separate, here you can see there is an option called new code space. So wherein that code spaces and all everything can be taken substantially.
So
Okay.
it's about GitHub, yeah, right? You are talking
Yeah,
about GitHub.
GitHub, right. So this is the code editor, whatever we have taken. So this is the Git editor one, right? So this one we have taken, right? So for all these,
So
understood, Ram? Right?
yeah,
Code,
yeah. Or claim editing or does it
code.
relate
Because
relate to it?
even though if it's a claim, end of the day you have to write a medical code, right? Code has to write.
Right.
Ram, listening?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to write a code, right? Even for healthcare claims, all that. So that code editing for that purpose, multiple tools we can use, something like Octane pricing for code editing. Like that, we have GitHub, which can be used for the code editing purposes. Do you got my point clear? Right.
Yeah. So you are saying that equivalent to Optimizer, this GitHub is one example of code editor,
Yeah,
right?
code editor. Yes, yes. This GitHub, we can use it for the code editing purposes. One of it. Because those are all the premium versions, so that we are taking this into consideration. Okay.
So this Optimizer also behave like this GitHub, or it is somehow different.
Octane pricing is also a code editing software. It is also a code editor. I will show you. Octane is also one of the code editor actually, right? So this is also
Optum.
a code editor, one of the code editor here. Even this is even because even whenever we are using GitHub also, we can do some code editings and all that. Because that's the reason why here there is an option called code spaces. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Right? Code spaces. Where
Right.
here we have, you can see there is an, you can see here, right? So there is an instant development environment where
Right.
go from the code to commit faster for any of the project. A project can be of anything, Ram, because
Yeah.
what
Right.
is the project we are working on, even healthcare claims or something of that sort, we can take it. But the
Very good.
advantage, especially in GitHub, is we have ready-made templates which are available, right? So blank templates or React, Ruby Rails, right? So whatever the code are we writing on, if you want to use any kind of templates, all these things, these templates can be used, even
Right.
Django, right? So these are the templates which normally used here. Otherwise, you can see there is an option called new code space, wherein you have to select the repository, right? So
Right.
repository we have to select it, and we need to update from which region are we connecting and all everything. We need to select and create a code space. That's how generally these code spaces and all everything we are creating. You can see here. Okay, we can create this code spaces, etc. All these, right? So all these things can
Right.
be connected over here, all that, right? So that's what generally we can
Yeah.
we can create. And this is how generally this code spaces and all of the thing. Or else we have already templates which are available over in this. So these templates can also be used for preparing any kind of code. Are we going to write all that stuff? We can use these templates to make it. For example, Jupyter Notebook I'm taking, right? We use that template.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So this is where generally the code space for the Jupyter is what I have opened it. Yeah, here is right. So here, right. So can you see this now, Ram?
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah. So here you can see, right. This is the data. Understood? Clear?
Yeah.
Ram, this is the data,
Yeah.
right? So this is on CSV files. This is the data which is available over in this. So in this data, if there are any requirements relating to this, so here you can see, right? So these are the requirements which will be connected to that so that we can update these things and all of the thing accordingly. Right. So at the same time, for example, if it is a developer container and all, here you can see this is how generally the code looks like. Can you see the code? Right.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right. So this is, yeah, this is how generally this code and all of the thing you can see over in this. This is how this code can be seen. Whenever there is an editing of code, we want to do something of that sort, we can do this. This is one thing which we can do. Apart from that, if there is any kind of testing here, you can see. Can you see this option, which is called testing? Can you see this, Ram?
Yeah, I can see that one.
Right. So testing, we need to install additional test extensions or else configure Python testing. Okay, that's what it is asking is. For example, if you are connecting an additional testing related. Yeah, so these are the tools which are available. If you want, we can install these now. Okay, these are not many because test runner for Java we have, right? So at the same time, we have Dart language related support option is available here. At the same time, prominent ones I am saying, okay, not the actual one, prominent ones.
Right.
Along with this, we have an option for Postman, right? So Postman is also one of the Postman is also one of the tool, right? API testing tool which normally we use. So if you
Yeah.
want to use Postman, we have already separate tool we can use it because Postman has an advantage where we can we don't require because it's already there. Yeah, Postman API. So this is already created. So even this
Right.
Postman API, which we can use it. It was there already. So
It's
whatever,
used for
because
API testing,
Postman
right?
generally for API testing purposes, generally Postman is being used. Just give me a minute, it was loading. Can you say this? Right. This is for Postman, Ram. Ram, this is for Postman. This is Postman tool.
API testing.
This is for Postman API testing, whatever you can see. This is for Postman API testing. Can you see the screen now? Can you see this now?
Yeah, I have rejoined. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see.
It's attempting to connect. Actually, there was an internet disconnection, so that it was
Yeah, you see, right?
right. So this is where you can see, right? So this is where generally this Postman, right? So API testing, right? So where in here generally whatever the environments we require, the kind of history we want to update, right? At the same time, if you want to create any workspaces or we have created any new workspaces, all these things we can create over here. You can see. Can you see this? Right.
Yeah.
So these are the workspaces which normally we want to create. And whatever the API network, right? So for example, if you want to have a private API network, especially we can create, or else we can use public API network, which can be used here. So after
Yeah.
this is for code, this thing code editing purposes, GitHub, right? So we're in disconnecting 1 minute. Yeah. So this is where and how usually it is get connected. Can you see this around? Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatever the testing it is required, so whatever the testing we want to whatever the testing we want to update, right? So if you want to update any kind of testing related stuff, so even the testing we can incorporate into this.
Yeah.
Here you can see open VS Code desktop, right? So that's what we can take it. Here you can see. Right. So can you see this now?
Yeah, I can see this screen.
Right. So there is a data which normally we can create. And there are some requirements. So where this code space for Jupyter is what we have taken.
Right.
If you want to run any kind of tasks and all everything, here we can run down the task. Okay.
Yeah.
So different tasks. Any tasks are we going to write? So now these are the requirements we want to update. For example,
Wow. Good job.
claim submission is what we do, right? So any
Good job.
claim adjudication, right? So this is how generally this submissions, adjudications, all these things has to be updated in this, right? So this is how generally all these requirements has to be updated into the existing application. Or else if there is any kind of terminals to be created, wherein if you want to create, we have our own terminal to create. Even if you want to create any kind of ports or forward ports and all everything can also be done here. Like for example, if you want to do the reload. So this is where generally these requirements and all everything we are going to write over this. Understood? This is how generally these requirements we are updating. What are the requirements we have and all everything that we can update so that we can use it when and wherever it is needed and all, so that we can use it. That we can do. Or else if there is any source control which we have to be identified, here there is an option called source control, wherein we identify it. Or else if there is any extensions or something of that sort, those extensions can be used here. Wherein if you want to manage, right, so all these extensions we can use. Or else if you want to run or debug running, so that we can do it, right? So that is when we can do all these, right? So for example, user tasks or something of that sort, these user tasks and all everything can be created into this, right? So my code spaces, right? So open code desktops, right? So all these we can use.
Right.
Right. So this is where generally we need to create. For example, if you want to create any new terminal and all, right? So we can create a new terminal as separate. Yeah, this is where generally the new terminal which was created by us. Understood, Ra? Clear? Right?
Yeah.
And we can create and we can manage the code, whatever it is. Or else if you want to take any text file or if you want to do any kind of editing, right? So for example, any new text file if you want to take, or open file or something like open file.
So can you relate this use of this code editor in context of our claim testing? How can
Yeah,
we
that's
use?
whatever the claim. See, even for claim testing, also claim even for claim testing, we have to write a code for every case. Am I right? Medical coding. That's what generally we call it as medical coding. Understand, right? So there will be medical coding people as separate. Whoever the medical coding people, they will be writing code here. Understand, right?
Yeah.
They'll write code here, right? So whatever the medical coding people they have. So what medical coding people do? They will write medical coding to the application. Are you following? Right.
Yeah, I'm following you.
Medical coding to the application. So and whatever the application medical code they write, so that medical coding can be edited when and wherever it is needed. That's how generally we go with. Right. So because coding can be because different coding tools we use around, right? So it will not be the same all the time. Somebody may be using Java as separate, right? So somebody may use somebody may be using even Python nowadays, because even people are using nowadays Python as separate. Or else someone normally will go with this thing, right? So they have their own medical coding tools, which normally they use. So that also we can use it, right? So whatever the medical coding tools we have as separate, so those medical coding tools can also be used in this. So that is also there, right? So different things normally we have whenever we are working on this application. Different coding tools and all everything we want to use here, right? So it is not something, for example, workspace, code space, Jupyter. Click on file, please select a file wherein you're just clicking on the file. Understood, Ram?
Yeah.
Right, so this is where generally because this is where generally the code which the requirements and all everything we want to write. Either the code numbers, either it can be 835 or it can be 837. Anything we can update here. Understood, Ram? Clear?
Right. Understood.
And this is where generally this bash code was, right? So bash code it is. So if you want to create any code spaces and all, so this we can see. This is the link, right? So this is the link wherein we have created for the workspaces. Wherein
Right.
this is the link which can be used to update the records, etc., etc. All these things. For that purpose, normally this can be used for. At the same time, if you want to do any API testing, if you want to connect with it, so as I told you earlier, we can use different testing tools to do that. Okay, so
Right.
those tools can be used and we can use it, right? So this is where generally this code spaces and all everything will be coming up. Let's say, for example, new repository. What spaces? For example, Django, right? So let's say that the Django we want to use it. Right, so this Django we can use it, right? So I think it is running the maximum running code spaces. Yeah. So if you want to create any code space, because there are already code spaces which we have created, right? So of course it's a open source kind of, so that it has its limitations. Otherwise, we can use it.
Right.
This is how it is.